Join me as we talk all things true crime.
Made contact and shattered.
The missing 4-year-old. The parents have called the about, but the mother has went for a wall, came home, now they can't find her.
Turn it over to another agency.
Chad, where are Lori's kids? They've been missing for 4 months. You have nothing to say?
4 were stabbed multiple times and were likely asleep during the attack. Some had defensive wounds.
Most of them had just like one that was the lethal stab wound.
Oh, what a tangled web we weave. Once I told a lie, and I told my family, I had to keep lying.
What's your is a demon?
We haven't cleared anybody.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for being here tonight. Let me know if you can hear me. Hi, Mel, Mac, and Johnny. Guys, let me know if you can hear me. Hi, Sherry, Mike, everybody who's here. Thank you so much for being here. So I've been following this. I haven't done a live stream covering this. Hi, Tony. It's good to see you, and Zoe. I haven't done a live stream on this because we had new news that came out in Delphi, and we've just been digging into the Watts case here, but I have been following it here and there, and this story just keeps developing as we speak. New information is coming out. In fact, I think today we heard that 2 of the 3 that were found outside deceased, 2 of them were laying on their backs, and the other third was sitting up in a chair. So a lot of weird things going on in this case. So I figured we would just do a deep dive together and just talk it through. And I just wanted to pull up some News Nation videos, and we can just do a listen and react all, and also go back to the beginning, and which was 2 weeks ago when this story broke, and just go over some of the very first details in this situation. Again, it's just very tragic, very confusing, and a lot of people have different opinions on it. So I figured we would also look at the comment section in some of these videos too that we're watching. So I know that it's titled "The Death Investigator Weighs In." So I want to share that first and foremost. It is Joseph Scott Morgan, and he weighs in on this segment. So again, thanks guys for being here. Please hit that like button if you haven't done so. Hi Punksy, hi Jay. Thank you, Jay, for becoming a member. I saw that before the live started. And hi Debbie Fox, good to see you. So here we go. We're going to just listen and react, talk about some things. And again, you guys let me know your thoughts and your opinions as well. I sort of have an idea where I think this might be going. Again, I think it's kind of the consensus with the majority that think that there was some illicit drug use possibly, or alcohol maybe mixed with drug use. Again, we're waiting on the toxicology, which will take a few weeks. So we just have no answers definitely for a little bit. So let's just watch some of this together. And thanks again for being here.
It's been nearly 3 weeks since 3 men found dead outside of a friend's house in Kansas City. Days after going over there to watch the Chiefs game, the controversy just keeps growing, with family members of the 3 guys furious as everyone awaits the toxicology reports. The living friend, Jordan Willis, whose home they'd gone to, never contacted police, didn't really contact anyone, says he didn't know 3 friends were dead, frozen in the backyard for 2 days. Yet the authorities say there were no signs of foul play. Now it turns out there was a 5th friend there that night. That guy identified as Alex Weimer, who was a childhood friend of the 3 men. Says he got to the home at about 7 p.m., left around midnight, when he claims the 4 men were still awake watching an episode of Jeopardy. Now, that contradicted statements made by Jordan Willis's attorney, who said last week he, meaning Willis, was asleep. He was asleep on the couch. The last memory he has is of leaving the front door. He doesn't know what happened with them until when the police came Tuesday night to his house. Now he's changed his statement, now claiming his client went to sleep while the friends continued to hang out.
When he would have people over his house sometimes, as people do, they get tired. They're people who are very close to you. And then you feel comfortable going to bed and allowing them to leave whenever they want to leave.
Now, the families of the three men, 38-year-old Ricky Johnson, 37-year-old David Harrington, and 36-year-old Clayton McGeeny, are furious that this new revelation has led to no updates in the case.
Last time we saw him, they were leaving the house, but he didn't know that they had left, so that doesn't make much sense.
I think a lot of people know more than they're saying.
You can't tell me he didn't know those flies were back there in the backyard.
How do you not know there's 3 dead bodies in the back porch?
Meanwhile, Willis's family is standing with him, his father defending his son in a statement. He would never in a million years do anything. These were all good friends of his. These were all people he went to school with. He took them.
I just feel like if this was sort of an intentional, like, oh, I'm going to drug or lace my friends' drinks or get them, really effed up tonight, I feel like there would have been more of an effort to kind of hide the tracks. Like, the bodies were right outside. And the fact that he wasn't answering anybody's phone calls and stuff like that for days, and then, ends up finding the friends out back, except, he didn't find them. It was one of the fiancés of one of the victims that came over there, and we'll read into those details as well. But I just feel like he would have made more of an effort to kind of hide them if this was some sort of intentional, like premeditated situation. Now, when it comes to the snowfall, I'm hearing that there was a few inches that fell. It was 29 degrees. Not a few feet, but still, like, even a few inches of snow could kind of cover anybody else's footprints out there, or maybe drag marks. But again, I just feel like if he was going to make the effort to get them outside of the house somewhere else, why put them in his own backyard? You know what I mean? So I think in the research that I've done, we've heard that one of these 3 did have a history with drug use, although he had been, quote unquote, clean for a while. I think that it's likely that maybe 3 of them went out for a cigarette. It has come to light that one or more than one actually did smoke cigarettes. So maybe they were out there smoking together. And hello, Roxanne, good to see you. Hi, Anonymous, and everyone else who has joined. Yeah, Tater, it is really bizarre. Yeah, some people are saying they're not sure what to think. Yeah, it's really weird. It's just, again, it's something I've been following, but I figured we would dig into this a little bit deeper today together. So I don't know. I'm thinking they went out for a cigarette. Expected to come right back in, as one of them, I guess, didn't even have his jacket on. And then we're hearing that Jordan, the owner of the house, pretty much had their phones. So I don't know if that means like he had them in his like personal possession, or if they were just in the house. So they go out for their cigarette, leave their phone inside, which still, I think that's sort of weird. But I guess if you were on illicit substances, you might not even be thinking like, let me carry my phone out while I have this cigarette. Like maybe they were just caught up in the moment of being together, and they're not in a mood or a situation to text anybody. Did they have their jackets on? Teacup asked. I'm hearing that for sure that one of them did not. And hello, Delaney. She says, hi, Amber. Hi, chat. Crazy case. And thank you for being a member for 22 months. And I like your Sid Vicious picture there. Could they all have been drugged? I think that that's possible. And maybe the situation was different for the owner of the house, Jordan, because he was inside. So maybe he didn't have the same reaction. Maybe he took less. Maybe his tolerance level is higher than theirs. And then there's, of course, people who are saying like, no, they didn't do drugs. So there's just a lot of different things coming our way with this one.
To a football game the day before. Now, we are still awaiting the toxicology reports, which could shed a lot of light on exactly what happened. Joining us now is Joseph Scott Morgan, who is one of the leading experts on the coroner system in the United States. He's been following this story closely. Thanks a lot for coming on the program. Appreciate it. All right, so what exactly are we going to learn from this toxicology report?
Yeah, thanks for having me, Dan. The reality is this: they're going to do what's referred to as a qualitative finding, which means they're going to identify whatever substances were in these gentlemen's systems collectively. And it's kind of referred to as a standard panel that we run at autopsy. We're looking for everything from opioids, cannabinoids, benzos, cocaine metabolite, all these other things. And of course, the big one out there that everybody's talking about, of course, is fentanyl. And those are all going to be they'll be qualified, and then they'll do a quantitative result. And that's what's taking so long at this point in time, I think, relative to the toxicological findings. They will, every drug out there, even some that you might be surprised about, has a therapeutic level. That is, those drugs that we can take and we're not going to die from them or slip into a coma. They're looking for these levels to see if they reached levels of lethality, if in fact there is anything in their collective systems. Now, my big issue with this case, Dan, is that I don't think there were any lightning strikes that day. I don't think that there's any trauma. So we can't have people that just 3 adult males, relatively healthy from what we know, they just don't spontaneously fall over dead in this close proximity to one another. So I have to think that there's some kind of agent at work here in their system. Right. My big thing here is, how carefully did they examine the scene? I hope that any kind of drinking containers, vessels, anything that were outside with those remains, that they were collected, that they are being analyzed. It's not just the bodies alone. And anything within that house. I don't know if the cops have served a search warrant on this residence to collect anything that may have been in there, because look, we have to come to an agreement that this is not normal, that this is abnormal. It's an outlier.
Right. And there's also no way this could be alcohol. All right. There's no way 3 guys all die of alcohol poisoning and all freeze in the same area out. There's just no way. Right.
No. Yeah, you're.
I do think it's possible that there could be a combination with alcohol and something else, but it might not have been the alcohol itself that caused the demise, but maybe in combination. Again, I'm not really certain 100%, but let's listen more what he has to say. And then I have another clip of a pathologist too, and who will give his opinion.
Absolutely right, unless you're talking about something like bathtub gin, all right? We know that that's not the case, where it would be so toxic that it would take them to their knees. So the answer lies elsewhere, and that's what's so important here. And one other thing to go along with relative to the gentleman that slept for 48 hours, did he ingest something and may not have known about it, because he's lost 2 days here, we're talking about, if not more than that. So that's going to be key as well. I doubt that they drew blood on that guy, though.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're still going to have to wait a couple weeks, apparently, before the results come in. They said something like 8 weeks. Joseph Scott Morgan, thank you so much for coming on the show. Appreciate it. Thank you for watching.
All right. So again, I'm going to play another one that has an expert opinion as well. And then we can just start. I want to read an article that took place the first week that this occurred, and kind of just go back to the beginning in our deep dive.
And whose 3 friends were found dead in his backyard after the Kansas City Chargers game is reportedly depressed over constant speculation that he was somehow involved. A close source telling Fox Nation, not only is the whole country accusing him of murdering his friends without factual details, evidence, or any charges at this time, but he also lost 3 close friends. So what happened? Here with reaction forensic pathologist and Fox News contributor, Dr. Michael Bodden. Doctor, good morning.
Good morning, Steve.
It's so puzzling because Mr. Willis, of the 4 people who were in the house that night, there was a 5th, but he left at midnight. Of the 4 people, he's the one guy whose house it was and the one guy who didn't die.
Yeah, but it sounds like from what's been released so far that he slept for a long period of time. It may be that all 4 of them took something that made them pass out. He passed out indoors and slept it off. They passed out in the cold weather and snow, and within an hour, the body temperature would go down from 98 degrees to 80 degrees, and the heart rhythm goes awry, and the person dies of cardiac arrest because of the cold, hypothermia. And the toxicology will be very helpful, because the toxicology will tell us the level of what was present and the level. This may be just a recreational level, and they didn't die of a drug overdose.
It's so puzzling, because it would be one thing if it was one person, but the simultaneous deaths of 3 people?
You're absolutely right. The most common simultaneous deaths are caused by carbon monoxide, but that's indoors always.
Right.
Outdoors, you don't die of carbon monoxide. And that's why I think that they took something that drug users commonly.
You're saying they all took
all
something.
4 may have taken the same unknown. They may not have known what was in the material they were taking, and they got confused. They passed out. One passes out indoors and sleeps it off. The others are outdoors and die of the cold.
Now I'm going to pause it there. First off, hello, CDT. Good to see you. I just think that in this article came out before we found out also tonight that 2 of them were laying down. 1 of them was sitting up. Now I'm almost thinking maybe the effects happened to them while they were smoking a cigarette. I haven't heard anything about like, oh yes, cigarettes were found around them or in one of their fingers, like clipped. I don't know those details, and only the people who were there on the death scene investigation know those details. But I don't know. People are talking a lot about possible poison from homemade booze. I mean, maybe. And the guy inside just kind of passes out from it for 2 days. It's possible. Hello, Gravity. Good to see you. It's just super strange. I'm leaning towards that green punk. What is green punk? Apparently they do, Delaney, but I don't know like if they do it, they take it pure, or if they just, it's mixed, they know that it's mixed in other stuff that they're taking. Like moonshine or something. If he made a brew, he could be liable. Yeah, I mean, definitely. If he made a substance like a homemade brew, maybe that's why he's lawyered up. Although, you know, people do lawyer up in situations. I mean, if there's 3 of your friends are found deceased outside your yard, I think a lot of us might be like, okay, I need a lawyer. I don't know how to maneuver this. I'm innocent, you know, and then of course there's people who are guilty and know that they did something, and maybe they just they lawyer up because they know that they have some sort of tie to these deaths and they need legal assistance. It's like either way. Like, and it's funny too, because like the coverage that I've watched on this from other people, a lot of people have said, oh, he lawyered up right away, like he's guilty. And it's just so interesting how we like perceive that, when we all also are the same people who say like, oh yeah, always get a lawyer, like don't talk to the cops without one. So again, you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't, with public perception. And yeah, somebody asked earlier what the temperature was. The temperature was, I believe, 29 degrees that night. Yeah, who wouldn't lawyer up if 3 of their friends were found outside? So it's just interesting how people perceive it as like, oh, he's guilty. You know, we just don't know those details.
And I'm sure the police already know. They were at the scene. They got information from the scene, what was used and not. I'm sure this Willis person is talking and cooperating with what he knows. The police are looking for whoever supplied the drug. And when they find out, they'll release the information. They know the cause of death. They know what the toxicology is by now.
So the cops, the KC cops, are playing it close to the vest so as not to tip off whoever might have supplied.
That would be my impression, yes, because the medical examiner stuff is finished.
Yeah. What, you know, and we are purely speculating because we don't have any
Right.
inside information. I don't know if you do, but what sort of drugs could they have taken to do this?
Well, there are many different, about 20 different kinds of fentanyl analogs, and some of them do cause rapid fainting, really passing out, fainting.
Knocks you out.
At a recreational level, and that's part, and they sleep it off.
Do people buy it for that purpose?
No, but they know that if they take, that most drug abusers, these are not chronic users, but most people who use drugs know that if they pass out, usually, almost always, they'll sleep it off and come through it. You don't die every time you have you pass out.
Yeah.
But then they wake up, and that's part of what they're going through.
Right.
Especially with the narcotic drugs.
Sure.
So I'm just going to pause it, obviously, for fair use purposes and to just kind of bounce off you guys in chat. So say they were using illicit drugs and they nod out, that doesn't, so then one of them is nodding out in the chair outside that he was found in. Again, that came from News Nation tonight. It wasn't a police officer who stated it. Law enforcement haven't said that themselves, but from what I'm hearing, one of them was sitting in the chair outside and two others were on their back. So let's just visualize this for a second. So do they, snort whatever or take, somehow they ingest, let's say it was fentanyl. So then they make it all the way outside before they start nodding off. And then I see Mark say they all OD'd, took outside, case over. So then that would mean that Jordan inside decides, is he messed up too when this takes place, Mark? So is he also high and then decides to drag his friends outside? And why would he plop one of them in the chair and then just, what would be the reason to not get rid of them further? Because he's high also and just not thinking clearly? I'm just asking you guys because I really am. I'm trying to understand all this. Unfortunately, you cannot talk to cops. Yeah, you just can't invoke your fifth. Invoke your fifth and then invoke each right specifically, one after the other. Yeah. I already drank and where I stayed in bed for 2 days, stayed in the same area of the house, didn't even leave the house. So I don't find it odd if it was a combination of a drug as well. Yeah, because a lot of people are like, how did he not look outside? I mean, I can't say that I examine my front and backyard every single day, but I guess when I have friends over, like I walk them to the door and like, I wouldn't say that I always know that they pull away, but I find it odd that like Jordan sees them leave and, their cars were still there. So it's just strange. Like, so he didn't see any of their headlights leaving because it was nighttime. All that should have sort of been like a tip off to him as he's saying goodbye to them. And this is his story that he, said goodbye to them and off they went. Hi, Florida Bass Fishing. He passed out also, I bet. Okay, so he passes out, comes to, and then is like in his own phase or fog and haze that he doesn't like look outside for 2 days. But then also I'm hearing that people were trying to reach out to him. So he's not answering anybody's calls. And he's also not wondering what, like, or reaching out to his friends. Again, his phone information, his phone data is going to be so important in piecing this puzzle together because it's going to show like what sort of intent or cover up process he might have been going through in those days when they were just sitting outside, frozen in his backyard. That drug is so strong, you don't even need to snort it. Just standing by the fentanyl can make you sick or die. Yeah, I've seen videos of officers handling the drugs for evidence purposes, and they have gloves on, and they're still passing out and need to be revived from it. A phone battery wouldn't last 2 days, in my opinion. That is interesting because that would mean like it would have had to been 100% like charged and then never really touched, I think, for it to last 2 days. And that would mean maybe he was asleep. Yeah, maybe well, that's the thing is like he apparently says in one of his interviews that he saw them leave at the front door. Right. If it wasn't used, if the phone wasn't used, I could maybe see that. But I'm also hearing that he answered a phone call. Jordan answered a phone call from his dad. But I don't know. But yeah, with all those calls, that should have drained some battery. Okay, let's keep playing this. And I have a few other ones. And you guys keep sharing your thoughts in chat. And I'll pull them up and pause it.
And real quickly, I'd read some reports, friends, family members of the people who died, they go, this guy didn't use drugs. But if they are drinking, first of all, sometimes you do stuff.
Alcohol and drugs, and there are no natural diseases that would cause 3 healthy persons to die simultaneously. So there's no natural disease, no criminal stabbing, shooting, or anything. I think it is alcohol and drugs probably that cause them to pass out and they die from the cold.
Nobody knows more about this stuff than you do. Dr. Bodden, thank you very much.
Well, sad situation.
It's terrible. And we need answers. Maybe we will get more this week. Thank you,
I think so.
Yeah, it is just awful. I know for sure one of them was a father. I don't know if there were other dads, but still, even being a brother and a son, like they were right around my age, mid to late 30s. A lot of life left. Let's see. Let's break up the videos and just go back to a article from the very beginning. I think that it's helpful to just kind of go back to what was being reported first. Let's see. Okay, you guys can see this. Yeah, this whole story is weird. How long for the toxicology on this? I'm hearing a couple weeks. I'm hearing like it could be longer, like a month. I haven't checked my backyard for days, although I live in an upper cottage flat, but I would notice my friend's cars outside unless his friends have him cover for them while doing stuff. And the other thing too is he had said something like it wouldn't be unusual for his friends to leave their cars there or something like that. I'm like, well, what? I mean, well, wouldn't you be like messaging them like, hey, your car's still here. I didn't realize that you got a separate ride home or whatever, you know? I feel it was either poisoned booze or fentanyl. Nothing else would make sense to me, really. Yeah, it's hard because I'm not really well versed on what every single drug does and all that, but I did pull up something about ketamine that I want to kind of go through with you guys too. So this was posted, I think, the first week. Of course, where's the date on it? Oh, no, this was the 24th. All right. Mystery deepens over Kansas City man found dead in friend's frozen backyard. As an attorney for, oh, wait, no, that's not. Oh, yeah. Okay. As an attorney for the HIV researcher Jordan Willis tells it, his client hosted 4 friends at his home on January 7th to watch their hometown Kansas City Chiefs win a football game on television, said goodbye to them, and went to sleep. 3 of those men soon died in the home's backyard in freezing weather without him even realizing it, and their bodies were found days later by someone other than Willis. Now Willis is grappling with the public scrutiny and anxiously awaiting the results of the tests aiming to determine what substances may have been in his late friend's blood and whether any played a role in their seemingly mysterious deaths, according to his lawyer. Jordan is unaware of how his friends died, Willis attorney John Perkno said in a statement distributed to various news outlets. Like the rest of us, Jordan is anxiously awaiting the results of the autopsy and toxicology tests performed on his friends. Willis has been the target of rumors from internet sleuths and online users since his friends Clayton, David, Ricky were found dead in his backyard on the 9th of January. He has also faced skepticism from the families of the late men whether Willis is being totally forthcoming about what happened. 2 days before their bodies were found, McGreeny Harrington and Johnson went to Willis's to catch the Chiefs defeat the Los Angeles Chargers. His lawyer maintains his client, a 38-year-old protein scientist, went to bed while his friends and fourth guest lingered in his home, wishing them a good night and getting in bed at the end of the day, whose low temperature was 29 degrees. The fourth guest, whose name has not publicly been released, has said McGreeny, Harrington, and Johnson were still conscious when he left Willis's home. The fourth guest insisted to the local news outlet that he was not the last person to see McGreeny, Harrington, and Johnson alive, despite what Willis has suggested. Whatever the case, temperatures remained below freezing during the next 2 days while Willis worked from home and believed his friends left safely. So he's working from home while they're out in his backyard, according to this. So while we were all saying like, oh, maybe he was, I would love to know, like, so then was he checking in with his boss and all that on those 2 days? Okay. During that time, Perkno said Willis did not receive any calls or texts from people looking for his friends who had not been heard from since going to Willis's home. See, that is not what I'm hearing from another article too that I'll pull up too. I'm hearing that the fiance of one of the girls, the ones that like found them and called the cops, was calling Jordan's phone as well, and he wasn't answering. Perkno's statement said Willis did not immediately see one direct message sent to him on social media about at least one of the disappearances, according to Kansas City Star newspaper. The statement said Willis failed to notice when a couple of people came over looking for the men because he wore earphones and kept a loud fan on while sleeping. The two cars of the two missing men were parked on the street, but Perkno said Willis did not see them. Even if he had, Perkno said, Willis would not have thought it was unusual for his friends to leave behind their cars overnight. Perkno and Willis did not realize his friends had died until after the police showed up at his door. McGreeny's fiance had broken into the basement and found the corpse of one of his friends on the back porch, police told reporters. She called police out to the Willis homes and they discovered the bodies of his other two friends. Investigators have said they found no obvious signs of violence at or near Willis's home, and Kansas City police captain told Fox the case was not being treated as a triple homicide. However, authorities said they would need to get the results of the autopsies and toxicology tests to determine the causes and manners of death for Harrington, Greeny, and Johnson. Perkno, I'm probably mispronouncing his lawyer's name, but whatever, directly addressed speculation over whether his client's friends may have died from drug overdoses, telling the New York Post, there's a chance of everything. The attorney told KCTV that Willis had moved out, deactivated his social media, and gone on leave for work to grieve for Harrington, McGreeny, and Johnson. In media interviews, family members of the dead men have said they do not believe they have heard the whole truth from Willis, who expressed sympathy to them in his lawyer's statement. None of the stories are adding up about what he's saying. Adriana Juarez, the mother of Johnson's son, said to KCTV, how do you not know there are 3 bodies on your back porch? McGreeny's cousin, Caleb McGreeny, said just the thought of them dying and them sitting outside in the cold for 2 days is extremely devastating. He added, somebody has to end up in custody over it. Regardless of any situation, they are at your house and there are 3 people dead. Yeah, so let's go to this video about the neighbor. Neighbor took a video the night the bodies were found.
You remember I told you about Ashton Brady. He was the neighbor who lives right across. You remember I told you about Ashton Brady. He was the neighbor who lives right across from Jordan Willis, who just by happenstance looked out at the exact moment that 911 was being called. Ashton, we know now that was Clayton's fiance that actually discovered those bodies, called 911 and then alerted the authorities. Just walk me through what you saw in that moment.
So basically, I was just going, turn off all my lights.
I was getting ready for bed, locking the doors. I went to lock my front door, and I saw a woman come out of the backyard on her phone, and she looked distressed because she kept looking back towards the house, and I thought it was weird. But I just moved in, so I really didn't know much, and so I just went back to my room. 10 minutes later, I saw an ambulance drive by, and I said, well, that's just weird. Something's going on. Went to the front room, looked out, and I saw that there was already 3 cop cars, and there was a man detained, and the woman was talking to the other police. And basically, I kind of watched that conspire for an hour or two. The man eventually left. The police searched the house, went through the backyards and everything, and I had no idea what had happened. And the next morning, I saw the news that they had found 3 dead bodies, and I just was kind of in disbelief. I was like, wow, I watched that happen.
Right, and actually we're looking at that video that you shot right there on the top left corner of your screen. So basically you're saying that's the video where you're actually looking out and you can see Jordan Willis being detained.
That's probably within the first 5 to 10 minutes. I was like, oh my goodness, something serious is going on at least. So yeah.
So your red flags were going off in that moment, but even before that, right? Because you saw some of these victims' cars that were right here parked in front of your house, and that also kind of alerted you, right? Because that was unusual.
Yeah, we had just moved in, but that week we had never seen those cars there. And then all of a sudden, that whole weekend, there was cars parked right in front of our drive, and they never left. And they stayed there until the police came, and even after that, we found out they're deceased. Yes, those cars never left.
And obviously, that was something that raised your suspicions at all. Tell me, I know you hadn't lived here for very long, right? But tell me at all about Jordan Willis, what you know.
Okay, I tried to pause it where we can kind of see how much snow is built up. I don't know if that car right in vision is one of the cars he's referring to as being theirs, but it does appear like it did kind of snow enough where maybe if somebody was out there while the other 2 were passing out or whatever took place, they could have walked back inside, and the snow that was falling could have maybe covered maybe their footprints to kind of eliminate the fact that they were out there with them. But again, I don't know 100%. I'm just looking at the environment and how much snow there is on things. Yeah, it seems weird to party that hard on a Sunday night. See, again, they were watching a football game, so to me, that's not too weird. Only because I know that it's a lot of people drink and stuff like that to watch their favorite team. These are friends that have been friends ever since school. So the fact that maybe they were partaking in some recreational use of drugs, maybe they felt safe and it was a low key kind of Sunday, like them together. And it was an intimate setting where, it's not, I don't know. It's hard. It's hard to say like if it's weird for a Sunday night because we don't really know what they were doing, I guess. But it was a big football game. So to them, it was sort of more than just a Sunday night hangout. And yes, like I see what you're saying. Design Rhythm says, yes, drink, smoke, maybe, but not like hardcore drugs when you have to work the next day. Yeah, who knows? Because if there are people who do this kind of stuff here and there, like you'd be surprised who gets up for Monday and goes to work still after partying hard like that when a football game is going on. Like that's the thing is like, I remember actually just to kind of relate it to my own personal experiences. I remember a manager who was just completely useless when it was NFL football season because we just knew like, oh, great. He's going to come in hungover. We're not going to get any help with certain things because he's going to be in the office and probably with his head down. So these things kind of do escalate. Even drinking escalates for sure when their favorite team is on and stuff like that. Bad combination of alcohol and drugs, in my opinion, Tony says. It seems like that. Actually, let's see what the comment section for this particular one is saying and what their opinions are. My heart breaks for these 3 men and the people they left behind. So many questions. This has us all anxious to know what happened, what went wrong, how. Those are the dead men's vehicles, totally noticeable in plain sight and slightly snowed over. So sad. How could he not notice? Okay, so those are the vehicles of the friends. The whole layout of this interview looks like an SNL skit. Okay, but on a serious note, God be with those victims. You can tell he didn't want to ask Ashton if he saw the bodies, what the bodies looked like on the gurney. I think everyone can probably imagine what a frozen guy in a chair with rigor mortis and the other elements might look like. What the hell are schools giving journalism degrees to? This was a horrible interview. Oh, geez. I really thought this was an SNL skit. Oh, my God. Anyways, there'll be other comments on other videos.
Oh, about him? I mean, did you ever see him out and about? Was he friendly? Did he come by and talk to you ever?
Honestly, I've never seen him out. I never saw him or talked to him, so I cannot speak for that. Honestly, I do not know.
How about the fact that just something that is so strange, this case in general is bizarre and we don't have many answers, but the fact of the matter is 3 men were outside for 2 days on this backyard, one sitting up in a chair, 2 laying down on their backs, frozen to death. I mean, how do you wrap your mind around all that information?
It's a lot, honestly. I imagine it has something to do with a bad drug or something, but it's strange that how long it occurred for people for something to notice like that. If it had on a Sunday, that's a long time, and I feel like something should have been said, I would imagine.
Yeah, it's hard to say out loud because you don't have all the information, but the fact of the matter is 3 men are now dead. Does it feel like you're getting, or your community is getting, the answers it deserves right now? That seems to be the big issue that the families have, is it just doesn't feel like they're getting closure because they're not getting answers.
Yeah, I feel for the families and that they just want to know what really happened. And I feel like if we need to know, we need to know. I'm sure answers are going to come out, but I know a lot of people are wondering what happened around here. That's for sure.
What is the talk of the town? How are people talking about it still? Because no doubt about it, the whole world is looking at this case and talking about it. So how do you and your friends talk about it, process it, work through this whole story?
We just kind of sit down and talk about it. Sometimes we're just randomly, we'll be talking about like what could have really happened? Like how do your 3 buddies, just you not notice them for 2 days outside in the backyard? So it's really strange for me and all of our friends. It's really hard for me to say, but I feel like it had to have been just maybe an accident. I don't know.
Yeah, and I've just seen somebody say, "Oh, thank you, Eddie, for being a member for 3 months. Appreciate you." If the homeowner gave the others weed that, unbeknownst to him, was laced, could he get in trouble? If it's they were all using something together and one of them, Jordan, just didn't have the same reaction for whatever reason, took less. We listed other reasons in the beginning, higher tolerance, weight, the temp of the house, all that. Maybe he didn't drink too. Like, it could be a combination of things, but no matter what took place, like in regards to like an accident like that, he could still be in trouble. Like if he gave it to them, if he, there's I think involuntary manslaughter or maybe it's manslaughter. I'm not sure the right charge, but he is kind of facing some chance of still being charged in an accident setting, depending on the whole story of circumstances. But it looks like fall leaves on the ground here. In the video he took, there's a lot of snow. Yeah, they were going through like a little storm at the time. 29 degrees and a few inches of snow. January 7th, Kansas City didn't have the snow they had on January 9th. Good to know.
It needs more investigation, though, I think.
Ashley, hang
Alex?
tight. I think Ashley Banfield has a question. Go ahead, Ashley.
I do. I don't think he can hear me with an IFB, but if he can't, pass this question on. Can you ask Ashton if he saw the bodies coming out of the house? Because we learned tonight on Chris Cuomo that the father of one of the men knew that one of the men was died or frozen in a position in a lawn chair on the back porch. And I wondered if he saw gurneys come out with 3 bodies, or if he saw something unusual in the position of the bodies that were brought out of the house.
Sure. We want to know what you saw beyond those initial things that you've shared already, in specific about the bodies coming out of this house. Were you still awake at that time? Did you witness gurneys or medical examiners actually coming out with these bodies or taking them out?
So I actually did not. After that, everyone kind of cleared out. So I didn't know what had happened. So I just went to bed. I thought it was just a misunderstanding or something between a wife and a husband, but that wasn't it at all. So I went to sleep, went to work the next day. And when I was at work, I got an email or a message from a friend, sending me the picture of the article about the dead people. And I was like, oh my goodness. So I honestly did not see an ambulance actually gurney anyone out or anything.
What do you remember about the conditions during those days here in Kansas City? Obviously, these bodies were found frozen. Do you remember it being cold, freezing? Obviously, you saw this woman talking on her cell phone at night, 10 o'clock at night in the winter weather. And so that raised your alarms. But what do you remember just about the temperatures or the weather around that time?
It was cold. It was really cold. I'd gone hunting that Sunday and we hunted a pond, and we actually had to put pretty much an ice prop in there to make the pond open. So I mean, if that tells you anything, we could walk on the ice. That's how thick it was. So I mean, it was definitely below freezing, and not temperatures you want to just be outside hanging out in with no clothes.
Yeah, enough to raise red flags. Ashton, thank you very much for sharing that insight with us.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find News Nation on your television provider, and don't forget.
All right. Yeah, and I saw people saying like, what a question to ask, like about seeing the bodies carried out. That's Ashley Banfield for you. It's like you want the details, but I don't know. Sometimes it's all about delivery too. Okay, inside the mysterious deaths of 3 men found dead in friend's frozen yard. What do we know so far? Several questions remain unanswered after 3 men were found dead in the backyard of their friend's home on January 9th. Ricky Johnson, David Harrington, and Clayton McGeeny's bodies were discovered January 9th, 2 days after they gathered at their friend Jordan Willis's home to watch the Kansas City Chiefs game on January 7th. McGeeny's fiance went looking for him and called the police when she saw him dead on Willis's back porch. The Kansas City Police Department told people that after responding to her call, they confirmed they found a dead body. Upon further investigation, officers located 2 other bodies in the backyard. See, this is what's interesting to me. I don't know if you guys have noticed it too. Like, they're always saying that they found something and then like they kept looking and found the rest. So I'm assuming they weren't all in close proximity. You guys let me know your thoughts or what you guys know about that. The attorney for Willis told people in a statement that his client is unaware how his friends died and is anxiously awaiting the results from the autopsy and toxicology. While KCPD said that there were no obvious signs of foul play observed at or near the crime scene and that it wasn't ruled a homicide investigation, the deceased families suspect they weren't getting the full story. Nothing is adding up, Johnson's brother, Jonathan Price, told people, but primarily Jordan's story does not add up whatsoever. The details of the night of the 3 men that died to the questions that still remain unanswered. Here's everything we know. All right. Johnson, Harrington, and McGeeny were 3 close friends who often posted with each other on their social media before their deaths in early January 2024. Johnson's brother told people that he would see Johnson post with Harrington and McGeeny when he wasn't very familiar with Willis, who was renting the home where the men died. Price added that Johnson, who was 38 years old when he died, went to high school with Harrington and McGeeny, who were 37 and 36, respectively, while Willis went to a nearby school. Johnson ran his father's business, Johnson's Construction, in Kansas City, and was an avid sports fan, always rooting for the Chiefs. He was also a father of 3, 14, 9, and 4, whom he loved spending time with, and his mother, Norma Chester. He would have done anything for those girls, she said. He didn't deserve this. McGeeny's friend echoed similar sentiments with his cousin Caleb McGeeny, calling him a good person in an interview with Fox. Just the thought of him dying and them sitting outside in the cold for 2 days, he said, is extremely devastating. The whole family is messed up. He was such a good person. Per a GoFundMe started on behalf of April McGeeny's fiance, The victim was a subcontractor for a small construction company. In an interview with the Kansas City Star, another cousin explained that McGeeny's was on a good path, turning his life around after a few issues with traffic violations and child support. Jennifer Marquez, Harrington's mother, told WDAF that the call informing her of her son's death was the most devastating moment of her life. It's a huge loss. He's everything, she told the outlet. He's a brother. He has a sister, Carmen, a brother, Sebastian. They're missing him, and they're brokenhearted. They would never see their brother again. What happened on the night of their deaths and what remains unclear. On the night of January 7th, the three friends went over to Willis's rented house in Kansas City to watch the Chiefs play. While initial reports stated that it was just the four of them present at the home, WDAF later reported that a fifth friend was also there that night, but he left earlier in the evening. The exact timeline of the events that followed remains unclear. See, that's the thing, is like this whole fifth person that's there, you know, when did he exactly leave? Was it after he had seen some shit go down and was like, I'm getting the F out of here, I don't want any association with this? Or was it he left and then the rest of them are like, okay, you know what? Like, now that he's gone, do you guys want to partake in this? Like, I just am, and the fact that we didn't know about this fifth person right away is also a huge, like, okay, so where does that guy come in? Did he bring this stuff over? I don't know. In a statement to People, the lawyer claimed that his client Willis last saw the men when they left his house and he went to bed. He had no knowledge that they remained in his backyard, the attorney added. So that's the other thing that's weird too. It's like, so he watched them leave the house. So then how did they end up out back? Like, that to me is like a complete lie, probably. Via an email to People, the lawyer acknowledged WDAF's report that there was a fifth man at the house, but said that he left maybe an hour or two before the other three, and added that Jordan is not exactly sure of the time period. However, WDAF reported that Perkinow has since said that Willis went to sleep before the three men left, right? I've seen like both things being said. When he would have people over at his house, yes, sometimes as people, they get tired, they're people that are just very close to you and you feel comfortable going to bed and allowing them to leave when they want to, he said. What has the friend who rented the home said about their deaths? Willis has not spoken publicly about the case, but Picerno has given statements on his behalf. After the police arrived, his lawyer said Willis allowed them into the house and told them all he knew and voluntarily consented to a search of his home. Two of the victims' cars were found parked on the street, but the lawyer said it wasn't unusual for Willis's friends to leave their cars there overnight. According to the lawyer, all Willis wants is answers, the attorney told News Nation. He's known them for 20 years. They're his friends. He's deeply hurt by their passing. The lawyer also added that while concerned family friend members knock on the Willis's door over the course of 2 days before the bodies were discovered, he did not hear them as he slept with earbuds and a loud fan. Interesting. So he slept through all this stuff. But then also the lawyers also said, well, he works from home. So which is it? Like, was he sleeping those 2 days or was he working from home? He said Willis did not receive any text messages or phone calls regarding the three men and did not use a Facebook message from one of their wives, did not see the Facebook message from one of the wives before the police came. However, the families of the victims have pointed out other inconsistencies in the lawyer's statements. In an interview with News Nation, the lawyer said his client was home sporadically in the 2 days before his friends' bodies were found. A few days later, however, he claimed Willis never left the house between Sunday and Tuesday when the police came. What I meant to say on News Nation is that he was sleeping and he left his room sporadically. How did the three men die? The manner and time of death of the three men are currently still unknown as police await an autopsy and toxicology report from the medical examiner. In a statement to People, the police said that Willis was cooperative with them and when they discovered the bodies. They added they were not ruling the situation a homicide case. The cause of death will be determined by the medical examiner and the determination and investigation by them is underway, the statement read. There have not been any charges or arrests and no one is in custody. The KCPD also added that there were no specific threats or concerns to the surrounding community and characterized the case as a death investigation. Elena Gonzalez, a spokesperson for KCPD, told the Associated Press on January 27th that there were still no signs of foul play as they continued their investigation. This still remains a death investigation and nothing more, she said. We still have no evidence or indication of foul play. No one is in police custody. Who is the fifth friend who was at the home that night? The name of the fifth friend that was that night has not been released. I'm hearing that it was Alex. However, the lawyer confirmed to People that he left before the three and that Willis went to sleep before the others left. However, WDAF has since reported that the attorney told them his client did not go to bed before they left, and instead he escorted the three to the door while falling asleep on the couch. WDAF interviewed the fifth individual who had a different version of events. The person emphasized to the outlet that all four men were awake and when he left. Andrew Tolge, the fifth individual's attorney, told the station that Willis and the three men were watching Jeopardy on TV and his client left around midnight. Okay, so the fifth person, who I'm hearing his name is Alex, has lawyered up as well. What have the men's families said about their deaths? These families of the victims have been vocal about their suspicions of the situation. Price, Johnson's brother, told People he thought they may have had something that wasn't alcohol. If I were going to give a hypothesis for their three men to die in the way that they did, something had to have been in their system, he told People. Whether or not it was taken knowingly, I wouldn't answer that. He added, but something was taken because three grown men do not freeze to death at the temperatures that were there at the time with just alcohol involved. While the police are still awaiting the toxicology report, Price said he has his doubts and that about the sobriety of this individuals. Yeah. There's no way that a coincidence of three grown men who all are fairly smart individuals would die in that way on the same night without something else being involved, he said. Even if one of them was not inebriated, they would have brought the other two inside. Alan McGeeny told KCTV that he also felt something was amiss in the story of how his cousin died. 100% I think the situation is strange, he said. I'm not looking for anyone's head or anything, but my cousin was froze to the dirt for 2 days. Oh, so apparently he was one of the ones that was laying on his back on the ground. Meanwhile, Harrison's mom, Marquez, said she just wants answers and doesn't feel she is getting them. I'm furious. Everyone is furious, Marquez told WDAF. Nobody believes this story. None of his friends, none of his families, none of us believe. Wow. All right. Hi, Shavane. Thank you for sending me that clip earlier. I played it with the doctor's comments on Fox. For God's sakes, this happens a lot. They usually take the bodies to the doorsteps hospital, right? So then why did Jordan go to sleep? That's a very good observation. He was evicted, you say. I don't know if they came legally to evict him. I would almost be tempted to sue because if I didn't do anything. I heard he willingly left the residence, but I don't know if that's true. Okay, Gregory, take care and prayers to you. And thank you for commenting on my channel. I've seen your other comments on my videos too. All right, let me switch up the screen. I do have some other videos from News Nation I want to play. They've been doing a lot of good coverage, despite what that those comments were saying about Alex in that last segment. He does a good job, especially for the Idaho 4 coverage. All right, let's see what this one is. It's titled, Brother Will Never Move On from Death of KC Chiefs Fan. Aww.
You can't leave what happened in Kansas City alone. You can't have these families with these young guys had their whole lives in front of them, and there's just no answer. And the authorities aren't saying anything. I respect the authorities doing things the right way. But according to one of the guys involved here, his attorney, they don't expect foul play. Then why don't you give the families some answers? So these three men in Kansas City, you know the story. They were found frozen to death in their buddy's backyard in a way that we haven't heard before, by the way, which you're going to hear in a moment. But no gunshot, no stab wound, no leg.
And the other thing too is, like, I'm sure you guys know too about hypothermia, that there is a lot of situations where people freeze to death and they're actually found nude, because like one of the last like symptoms or processes that your body goes through when you're freezing to death is you actually have like a screwed up sensation. Like, I don't know if it's your nerves or whatever, but that you think that you're burning up actually. So a lot of people who freeze to death will be found nude because they went through that stage in the hypothermia level. So I've yet to hear that any of these individuals were nude. That one cousin just said something about his cousin being frozen to the dirt. I don't know if that means he was nude or not, but have you guys heard anything from anything like that? I have just heard that the jackets were inside. I didn't hear that like clothing was found beside them or anything like that. Like in other situations, like even people who get lost hiking and stuff like that.
Ligature, meaning nobody had strangled them, apparently. Okay. So they send it out for an autopsy and toxicology. They say 8 weeks. 8 weeks. You can't bury, you can't mourn, you can't know. The families want answers. So we keep doing the story, and not to hype about it because we can only know what is shown. All right. The family knows what these guys were about and what they were doing and who this friend was to them. Let's bring in the brother of Ricky Johnson, one of the deceased. We had his father on last week. Jonathan Price is his name, and he joins us now. Jonathan, I'm sorry for your loss.
Thank you, Chris.
So how's the family holding up with the unknown?
It's the same every day, with, the lack of answers, the inability to really truly mourn without any form of cause. It's just very difficult. I don't think I'll ever move on really I'll never move on, but especially not knowing what happened to my brother. And I'm not one of these people that tries to speculate and stuff like that, but I want ideas out there. I want to be involved more. My mother, Ricky's father, they want to be involved more, and we're just not getting answers from anybody, even the people that claim they're doing the investigation.
So yeah, I just feel like there's not really many answers that the investigators can give them without the toxicology. But yeah, I totally agree. Design Rhythm says, but you would seek shelter, go inside. No one is getting hypothermia with a warm house 100 feet away or 10 feet away. Exactly. And even their vehicles. I mean, at last resort, if your friend locked you out of the house, you would go to a neighbor, you would go to your car. Like, there definitely isn't a reason for us to just think that they froze to death out there because they were, too drunk or whatever. I just don't think that that's what took place here.
So is it true that you guys have been trying to get the police to tell you what's happening and that they are not in communication with you?
That's correct.
Is there any reason? Is there some protocol in Kansas City I'm not aware of where they're not allowed to interface with the families of victims of crimes? Because usually that's like the main interface.
Yes, and you would think so, especially with something like this. And I'm not saying there was or was not a crime, but if you immediately suspect no foul play, then you should have a story. You should have something to tell the families.
I don't know if it's true or not, S. Hackett, but I'm hearing that Jordan, the house owner, had their cell phones. So I don't know if that means he had them, in his living room. I don't understand how the cell phones are left behind, but you saw your friends leave. You know what I mean? So all that is another whole mystery. Like, so wait, you didn't think it was unusual that their phones were left here? Like, where exactly were the phones? Yeah, supposedly that's what we're hearing. Their phones supposedly were in the home. Right. So where all this, but the thing is, the cops are saying we visited the scene and then it didn't show any signs of foul play. So then where exactly were the phones found? Did he just hand them over and say, I found these? You know, like where we need to know the location of all that. Did he have their keys or did they have them ATS? I haven't heard any specific information based on the keys. Have you guys heard anything about the keys?
And for no one to hear anything, that doesn't make any sense. And I think that's one of the main reasons why this is getting so big.
So
the phones and keys were together, left behind. I heard keys and wallet left on kitchen counter. So the lawyer is stating that Jordan Willis is walking around the house sporadically. He stayed in bed, but he was walking around his house. Like, so what did he think? You know, all this stuff is just, unbelievable to imagine. So you're not tipped off at all that seeing all this stuff, like the cars outside, everything. It just is not making sense. Shmita says, my gut tells me that they went out to smoke a joint before maybe a taxi came or something and it was laced. Yeah, for them to be outside. And that's the other thing, though, is there's 5 of you. So only 3 of you guys wanted to smoke a joint, or only 3 of you guys smoke cigarettes is the thing. Is like, what exactly? So then the 1/5 friend who took off, was he like last in rotation and didn't get as much, maybe, I don't know. Maybe that's what it is too. It is a joint that was laced and there's 5 of them in a circle. 3 of them go first, and then the other 2 witness what happens. And they're like, I'm out of here and split. I don't know. I think they did something inside, came out to smoke a cigarette. Yeah, that's the thing, is like the whole series of events of when they partook. Very possible it might have been laced. Maybe a cigarette was laced. When it comes to fentanyl, you just never know anymore. Exactly. And that's the other thing too, is like, so say they partook inside the house and went out for the cigarette. How quick are we saying that this started kind of kicking in for them? People in chat, Jordan wasn't home. Owner, he rented house and was evicted. Oh. I think so too. I've opted out many times when friends have smoked. Yeah, maybe there was only 3 smokers out of the 5 of them. And hello, Delana and Scottish Queen.
2 things that you've said that I haven't heard before. One, you seem to know something about where these men were found that I haven't heard. What information do you have about specifically where they were in the backyard and how they were situated?
Well, I don't have firsthand knowledge, but I have heard, because as being a brother, I'm looking at everything. I'm looking at everything anybody posts, whether it's information I feel is useful or information I don't feel is useful. But information I did find.
Well, you also know who found them,
was
right? I mean, they were found by an extended family member. So you guys are in contact. So go ahead, tell the audience.
Yeah. So I believe David was found in a lawn chair on the back porch, rather than all 3 laying flat, which definitely paints a picture we did not have from the very beginning. And it definitely brings up some questions that you would have, especially with somebody that, I don't care who you are, where you live, if it's snowing outside, you're looking at how bad it's getting.
And that's the other thing. If it's snowing and it's this cold, why are we sitting? So 1 sitting, 2 laying flat. I don't know. It's just, Mike asked, so did any of them even smoke or vape? Yes, I'm hearing, I believe, one of them for sure said yes, that he smoked cigarettes. I think it was, can't remember which one. But yes, somebody did smoke cigarettes for sure. Confirmed by, I believe, a sister. But 2, it was Ricky's, I believe. So 2 of them laying flat. So here's what I know about ketamine. And I was sort of explaining this story a little briefly to Shea Benet and some other mods in chat. The only thing I know about it is from an ex-boyfriend, and I know I can say this because I'm not dropping his name. He was at a festival and somebody offered him Special K, and that's ketamine. And he, in his young, fragile mind, because he was very young at the time, much younger than these guys, decided, like, yes, I want to do that. And he thought it was cocaine. And he said, you know, he does a line or whatever, and they call it a K-hole. And it's basically, he said he just spent the rest of the day laying in the tent in what's called a K-hole. So when they're describing these two out of the three laying on their backs, you know, a lot of things go through my mind. And I'm like, okay, so then were they in some sort of like hallucinogenic state where they were laying there together and purposely on their backs and stuff, and the one friend's just sitting there with them in the chair? Or, you know, were they brought out there like that by somebody and left there like that? You know, that this is all where my head's going. But I don't know much more as far as the scene, but the brother kind of painted a picture where I was like, I wonder if they were under there, like in their high while they were laying there, or did they just fall down? You know what I mean? They pass out.
Especially if you have any type of responsibilities of leaving your house in any way, shape, or form. It doesn't matter if you work from home, you got to leave sometime. And from his lawyer, we don't know if he left or not, because he started out saying that he left the home sporadically throughout the day. And then another one where he was home for 50 hours with no leaving the house
and they had
or looking out a window.
And there were cars outside in front. And you have a feeling that an intoxicant was involved, and you know your brother. And this is not a judgment thing. I don't care how he liked to spend his free time. It's not what this is about. You believe that the answer here lies in something that your brother didn't know he was taking.
Yes, absolutely. You know, I don't even speculate on what my brother has or has not done in the past, because that wouldn't be firsthand knowledge of mine either. I just know that my brother was a good man. He loved his daughters to death. He absolutely had future plans to be a father to them for the rest of their lives, and he would not jeopardize that. So it just doesn't make any sense.
Hey, thank you for watching. Please go to News Nation now.
Okay, I have some other videos I want to play as well. I think that it would be beneficial to just pull up. Again, I'm not saying that this is what they were using. I do think that there is other substances in combination with alcohol as well that they might have been using that could get them in this situation, but I don't know for sure. So what is ketamine? Ketamine is used by medical practitioners and veterinarians as an anesthetic. Aesthetic. It's sometimes used illegally by people to get high. Ketamine is a dissociative drug, which means it causes people to feel separated or detached from their body or physical environment. Dissociatives are similar to psychedelics. They can cause hallucinations and other changes in thoughts, emotions, and consciousness. What does ketamine look like? When it's sold illegally, ketamine usually comes as a white or off-white powder. It can also be made into pills or dissolved into a liquid. These are the other names for it. Special K. How is it used? Ketamine can be swallowed, snorted, or injected. It also sometimes smoked with cannabis or tobacco. The effects of ketamine may be experienced within 1 minute if injected, 5 to 15 minutes if snorted, and up to 30 minutes if swallowed. Its effects can last around an hour. However, an individual's coordination or senses may be affected for up to 24 hours after initial use. Effects of ketamine. There is no safe level of drug use. Use of any drugs always carries some risks. It's important to be careful when taking any type of drug. Ketamine affects everyone differently based on size, weight, and health, whether the person is used to taking it, whether other drugs are taken around the same time, the amount taken, the strength of the drug varies on the batch. Also effects may experience feeling happy and relaxed, feeling detached from your body, lowered sensitivity to pain, visual and auditory hallucinations, confusion and clumsiness, increased heart rate and blood pressure, drowsiness, slurred speech and blurred vision, anxiety and panic, vomiting, going into a K-hole, intense detachment from reality, usually only happens in high doses. Overdose. If you take a large amount of ketamine and have a strong batch, you could overdose. The risk of death from ketamine alone is low due to its ability to cause unconsciousness with minimum impact on airway reflexes or blood circulation. However, individuals are at a higher risk of physical harm and accidents while under the influence of ketamine. Call an ambulance right away, blah, blah, blah. So this is interesting too, because it says that it's a low risk for overdose. But think about it, because it can cause unconsciousness with minimum impact to your airway and reflexes. So could you pass out and then freeze to death on this? Like you freeze out there, but it was because of the drug use. So you don't actually overdose, you just passed out and you happened to pass out outside when you guys were smoking a joint or cigarettes. I don't know. Impaired judgment, disorientation, irritability, restlessness, clumsiness. Yeah. All right. Let's go back to some videos. What are you guys thinking after reading through that? What if Jordan knows what they did, but he didn't tamper with it? Maybe they need to find the source of the supplier, right? He knows what happened, a horse tranquilizer. It's also been used to treat PTSD. I have heard about that. It's like a new treatment. Okay, on something like that, I could see 3 men stargazing. Yeah, it's like it's supposed to be some sort of like it can cause hallucinations, like it said. Okay, let's get back to some other stuff. Paralysis and hypothermia are key indicators, in my opinion, in relation to ketamine as an option. Yeah. I could see something like that. All right, let's switch up. Going to be on here for about 15 more minutes, guys. All right. Families plea for answers after Kansas City Chiefs fans found dead. Let's see these comments. Why did the significant other not call the police? Why wait until 3 days later and nightfall to break it into the home where your significant other's vehicle has been sitting for 3 days and ignoring you? What wife goes to bed not knowing your husband is okay? 3 men didn't return home at night, didn't go to work Monday morning, calls, messages, and knocks being ignored. Their vehicles were there and there was no activity in the home. The police would have knocked and looked around and definitely gotten in the backyard Monday morning if they were called. Why did the wives not call the police?
How did they die in plain sight? And why were those 3 Kansas City Chief fans left in the cold for so long? A mystery for nearly 3 weeks, and we still really don't have answers. It started as friends meeting up to watch a Kansas City game. A chaotic 2 days later, the men were found dead in a snowy backyard. So now the friend who hosted the party is lawyering up, and a girlfriend of one of the victims tells News Nation she thinks they were murdered. To keep it all straight for us, we have correspondent Alex Capriello live in Kansas City. Alex, what can you tell us?
Yeah, hey there, Elizabeth. This right here behind me is the home where those 3 men's bodies were found. But I actually want to direct your attention over here. You see that gate? That's what leads to the backyard. And that's where police actually made that shocking discovery. I say shocking because that's what people here in the neighborhood tell me. This is a low crime, very safe community. But the person who actually lives here, Jordan Willis, the center of so much speculation, was not well known among the people who walk these streets each and every day.
3 families remain distraught over the sudden and unexpected deaths of their loved ones. David Harrington, Clayton McGeeny, and Ricky Johnson, found dead in their friend's Kansas City backyard. The grandmother of David Harrington telling News Nation exclusively that the family hasn't heard much from police since their bodies were discovered nearly 3 weeks ago. I would like to know that someone is really working on this case, Grandma Marilyn Wingate said.
That's a good point, Happy Cappy. So everyone's wondering, why did he wait so long and all this stuff? He had to wait 3 days for his system to clear out. That's why he didn't call anyone. That's a good point. Because some drugs are out of your system in 3 days. Thank you for that comment. Somebody else said something I wanted to pull up. Yeah, you fall asleep and freeze because you're knocked out. Oh, could be something like that. Oh, and Roxanne, thank you so much for the Cash App. I hope you're still listening.
Don't see how it could have been an accident. There are too many holes that are not filled in. Too many questions. On Monday, knocks at the door where the 3 men died went unanswered. Police say a friend, Jordan Willis, had been renting out the property. His attorney claims he fell asleep after saying goodbye to his friends and remained unaware their bodies were laying outside his home for 2 full days. Willis's lawyer says the young man is heartbroken over his friends' deaths. Investigators say they don't suspect murder, nor see any signs of foul play.
We have 3 guys. We have 6 children that don't have a dad. We have families. We have friends. And we're all hurting.
On Friday, in an exclusive interview with News Nation's Chris Cuomo, Lori Cruz, mother to David Harrington's kids, says she suspects there's more to this story than what police are letting on.
David was murdered. Whether it's a drug or it has to be for 3 men to be dead. It doesn't make any sense. It does not make any sense to have 3 men dead, laying in the yard, and him asleep for 48 hours.
Yeah, and we reached out to the Kansas City Police Department. They're not really revealing much more than what they originally did about the cause of death. Remember, no foul play, no signs of murder. What we're really waiting on at this point is toxicology reports, and that could take several weeks. Speaking to the family of David Harrington, they say that's really the main piece that they want to see before speaking anymore.
Boy, what a devastating story. Alex Capriello, thank you so much.
Yeah, that's a good question. Design Rhythm said, interesting. Wouldn't they still stay in the tissue and hair though? Right. So maybe he was thinking like buy him time where a cop wouldn't give him a piss test or something, but he would get a lawyer and then a warrant would maybe need to be used. Who knows? Who knows what he was thinking? But I just don't buy that he just had no idea, where they were and all that. In relation, I don't know. It's something's not adding up. I definitely think maybe time waited so that he could come up with a scheme or plan. Okay, so this was last night, and then the other video clip was from tonight, and then we will wrap it up. So send in your final thoughts through live chat, and if you're watching on replay, thank you so much, and comment your thoughts below. Yeah, he was a scientist. So maybe they felt safe if he had given them anything like, okay, he knows what he's doing. I don't know.
News Nation's Alex Capriello joins me live now from Kansas City. News Nation's Alex Capriello joins me live now from Kansas City. So you've been learning a lot, not only just today, but just in the last few minutes, something about the night of the discovery. Somebody witnessed something. What have you found out?
Yeah, what's interesting is we've been here all day, but when you do a lot of door knocking during the middle of the day, you don't get a lot of answered doors. People are at work. And so when we were out here setting up our live shot, we actually just had a neighbor approach us who lives right across from the house where this all went down, which is, of course, right here behind me. And he really filled in some gaps about what that night looked like when the investigators first got here. First and foremost, he said just by happenstance, he happened to be looking out the window at the time that ClaytonmcGeeny's fiance actually came here to snoop around for herself. Remember, she was the one who actually discovered the bodies in the first place and called 911. So from this neighbor's firsthand eyewitness report, he says he watched her actually leave the backyard, this gate right here behind me, call 911. And he said shortly after that, this whole street was flooded with cops. Meanwhile, he's filming the whole thing from his cell phone from his front window, looking out, just wondering what the heck could be happening right here in his neighborhood, right across from his street,
we're working on getting that video to you so that way you can show your viewers. But let me just describe it. He tells me that actually that person at the center of all this speculation, Jordan Willis, was actually handcuffed and detained right here against this brick wall of the house while police were asking questions. He said he filmed as actual investigators were searching through this entire house using flashlights to actually comb through each and every room, trying to find any other clues or evidence. Eventually, he said Willis was let go out of that handcuffs. He was taken to a car, presumably questioned more. But this was a big mystery that entire night. Nobody knew what was going on. And it wasn't until the news report started filling in that next day that people started getting some answers. Of course, to your point, still more questions than we have actual answers, but at least we have a better idea of what that actual scene looked like that night.
I know that you're getting that video, and that as soon as you get it, we'll try and get it on the air. But quickly, you were able to get an interview about the view out of Jordan Willis's kitchen, and there's a big sliding glass door. What'd you learn?
Yeah, exactly. I think a lot of people here are a little skeptical about the story that we're hearing. In specific, Jordan Willis's story, the fact that he slept through 48 hours without actually having any sort of inclination that his friends were dead outside. And so most people that I'm here in the neighborhood that I'm speaking to tell me that they just don't know Jordan. He seems to be a bit of a hermit. He doesn't come out. He doesn't really talk to neighbors. He has 2 dogs, we know, but he doesn't really do much dog walking. And so a lot of people are a little weirded out by this whole story. Here's what one neighbor told me.
Willis did say that he didn't see his friends out, but he has a sliding glass door going right into his backyard, and it's in his kitchen, so like you have to see it. I don't know, I just feel like there's no way you didn't see your friends dead outside.
So even if he didn't contribute to their deaths, it's a little weird. He may not be telling the whole truth.
Right, I mean, people were calling him, people were knocking on the door, and he wasn't answering to anybody, so I just feel like that's odd that you wouldn't say anything.
I think it's just a matter of time. You know, I trust a lot of the people who are like involved in investigating the case, and you know, I'm just waiting for any answers as a community member. I think that's what we're all waiting for.
And we do know now that Jordan Willis no longer lives here. This was a rental property that he lived in, but these neighbors tell me that they saw a U-Haul truck within about a week and then packing it all up and moving out. It's empty now. There is one light that stays up on the upper floor, but the neighbor here tells me that it's been on every single day since this incident happened.
Break in to our coverage, Alex, when you get that video of Jordan Willis being cuffed that night, if you would. I know that's a lot of logistics, but if you can, certainly.
Okay, and we looked at that video earlier in the live stream. We saw the snow on the cars and what the neighborhood looked at the time that they were being found and discovered on the 9th. This one was from today.
Okay, it's been 3 weeks since 3 Kansas City Chiefs football fans were found frozen to death in their friend's backyard, and still there are no answers about how they died. The men were missing for 2 days before anyone found them. They had spent the evening watching the football game and then were discovered days later dead in the backyard of a friend who was home the entire time. None of this makes any sense. The families of the 3 victims are distraught and livid that they still don't know what happened. The friend who hosted the party has denied any wrongdoing and has hired a lawyer. Police say there is no evidence of foul play, but frustrated family members of the victims aren't buying it. Correspondent Alex Capriello was live in Kansas City with more. And Alex, you talked with an eyewitness on the night who was around the area on the night the bodies were found. What did he tell you?
Yeah, potentially the one and only eyewitness on the exact night that those 3 bodies were found. He lives right across the street. His name is Ashton Brady, and he shared what he remembered from that night. Just by pure happenstance, Elizabeth, he actually was looking out of his window at the exact moment that Clayton's fiance came out from behind this fence right here behind me, called 911 and alerted the authorities. This is video that you're seeing right now that Ashton took that night. If you look closely, you could see the person who was actually renting out this home, the person behind that is at the center of so much speculation, Jordan Willis. You could see him right there, handcuffed and detained, being asked questions from the police officers who were responding to the scene. Ashton filling me in, telling me that they had him in handcuffs for quite a while before releasing him, bringing him into a patrol car, and then taking off, presumably to get more questions asked of him from the police headquarters. I had a chance to speak to Ashton more about what he saw that night. Here's what he had to say.
The police searched the house, went through the backyards and everything, and I had no idea what had happened. And the next morning, I saw the news that they had found 3 dead bodies, and I just was kind of in disbelief. I was like, wow, I watched that happen.
Right, and actually we're looking at that video that you shot right there on the top left corner of your screen. So basically you're saying that's the video where you're actually looking out and you can see Jordan Willis being detained.
That's probably within the first 5 to 10 minutes. I was like, oh my goodness, something serious is going on.
And again, Jordan Willis right now denying any sort of wrongdoing. We've been trying to get in touch with both him and his lawyer. They're not speaking until more information comes out. But I'm told by other neighbors that he does not live here anymore. About a week after those bodies were found, a U-Haul truck was seen in that driveway, and he moved out promptly.
And Alex, what's taking so long with the toxicology tests on these 3 victims? Obviously, that's key. You know, looking for any drugs that they might have taken or consumed, and any fentanyl that might have killed them, alcohol, that sort of thing. Why is this taking so long?
Yeah, that is the big question that everyone has, not just the family members, but this whole neighborhood and community of Kansas City. They want answers. They feel like they can't get closure until they know that. The long story short really is the fact that it takes a long time for toxicology reports to come through. 8 weeks, I'm told. We've already hit the 3-week mark, which seems to say that we have about 5 weeks left. I spoke to the Kansas City Police Department about their process, their standard operating procedures when it comes to toxicology reports. They send it all the way to a completely separate third party. They're the ones who are in complete control of that toxicology report. And so once it finishes with that third party, then it comes back to Kansas City PD, and then it is shared with the families. One final note, I asked the Kansas City Police Department if they're planning on sharing any sort of preliminary findings with the family, because obviously they just want to know. They don't necessarily need to know the exact medical examiner's report. Maybe they could just have a glimpse of what exactly they're looking at. But the Kansas City Police Department tells me that they're not even sharing preliminary reports with the families until they get that full medical examiner's report.
Oh, all right. Alex Capriella reporting live from the scene in Kansas City. Thanks so much. Thanks so much for watching. Go to joinnn.
Sorry, I was muted. I just was thanking you guys for going through this mystery right now. We don't really have any answers. I agree with what Johnny said earlier. It's a case that can go both ways, really. They could have overdosed. They could have froze, maybe. But we will have to wait for the autopsy and toxicology results. And I totally agree with that statement. There were a few things that kind of I noted, besides all the other inconsistencies that I was pointing out as we were listening and reading articles, something that stood out to me is not only has the story changed from Jordan Willis's lawyer numerous times, but I believe one of the family members of the victims, I can't remember which one, but in one of these interviews or articles stated that they knew, like, the 3 of the victims that died, they recognized them and seen their loved one tagged with the others all the time on social media. But Jordan Willis wasn't somebody that this specific family member knew or really saw them being tagged with often on social media. And then I also wanted to kind of point out another thing that kind of stood out to me was Jordan Willis wasn't somebody who went to school with the victims. He went to a separate school, even though he was around the same age as them. I think it's noteworthy that he actually wasn't one of the ones that was like, you know, they grew up and went to the same high school together. So just something, I don't know what it really comes into play in the grand scheme of things, but I just think that it's a noteworthy element in everything that we kind of listened to tonight. Like, he wasn't really somebody that the families of the victims were like, oh yeah, we know Jordan, and you know, they've all known each other for so long. Like, they've talked about the 3 victims that way, like, yes, they grew up together, you know, you've seen it all. But I think that that was sort of something that stood out to me as like, okay, this is interesting, or that's an unusual element. But yeah, we'll definitely keep watching this one and updating when we can. Again, there's new developments that are like coming out all the time, so we'll keep in touch. Later this week, I will be live, hopefully with CDT again on the Watts case deep dive. And yeah, we'll just keep updating you guys on some cases outside of Watts as well, including Delphi and other ones. So thanks again for being here. And I appreciate everyone who chatted with me in the live chat. And if you were just watching, thank you so much. If you're on replay, you guys are the real MVPs. I really appreciate you guys. Just hit that like button. It's all I ask for. Thank you to those who donated. Roxanne, I hope you're still listening. Again, I'll be messaging you, but thank you again for the Cash App. And you guys have a wonderful night, and we'll talk very soon. And I'll see you actually this week for Watts. So see you later.